Hey everyone, and welcome back to Battleborn. I've got a new build for you. This one is for Thorn, and I call it Aerial Predator. With this build, you're going to have fantastic wave clearing capabilities with your Blight to hopefully give you a level advantage over your opponents. You're going to have great mobility through your jumping to avoid both melee damage and range damage. You're going to have fantastic health regeneration from your passive Eldred Vitality, plus the gear we're going to bring along with us. And you're going to be able to harass your opponents from medium range, hit them with your curse, and then close the gap on them and unload a ridiculous amount of damage with your skills and rack up those kills. Thorn kills people. She's fantastic at doing it. She's one of the best. Alright, so if this sounds like your type of build, let's jump into the Helix and I'll show you how to set it up. Alright, so for level 1, we are going with Swampfoot. That adds a slow to the Blight, which is invaluable. It just makes it hard for opponents to get away from you. It makes it harder for the minions to get out of it, so they'll just soak up your entire Blight. It's fantastic. It's great. Level 2, we're going to the right with Fell Wind. Thorn receives a speed boost when touching Blight's field. That has two uses. One for escaping. Well, it has a few more uses, but it's good for escaping. You throw down a Blight. It slows anyone that tries to chase after you and gives you a speed boost so you can get away. And the other time I find it helps out a lot is actually once I get level 10. I use my ultimate. It blows people up. I usually throw it at my feet, which means there's a Blight there now, which means I get a movement speed buff. So those are the two instances where that comes in handy the most. With the other two Helixes, I don't find them useful whatsoever. Alright, level 3, I like both of these. But I tend to go to the left with Draw Strength, which allows arrows to penetrate multiple targets. But Burst Propulsion is really good if you feel you need more mobility. But I always have plenty of mobility, so I'm not worried about that. But either of these choices is good, but my preference is to go to the left with Draw Strength. Alright, level 4, I go to the right with Knockout, which adds 2 arrows to your volley attack. Now, there's a lot of debate on which one is better, Knockout or Focus Volley. I like Knockout, not always the greatest aim, and it seems to do just fine for me, so that's what I like to go with, but I suppose Focus Volley could be just as good if you're a really good aim with the volley. Alright, level 5. We're going to the left with Hextension. It increases the amount of damage that cursed targets receive and the duration of the curse. Alright, level 6. We're going to the left with Brutal Blight. That increases the area of effect damage on your Blights. Better for wave clearing, and it's sort of what I use to initiate players, so extra damage on that is always nice. Alright, level 7, we're going to the right with Vaulting Hunter. This is the crazy mobility, increases the height of Thorn's jump, and it just makes you so hard to hit. It lets you get around the battlefield so easily because nothing can really get in your way. You just hop right over it. And I love this ability. It changes the game completely. As soon as I pick up Vaulting Hunter, I become the scariest person on the battlefield if I wasn't already. Alright, level 8. We're going to the left with Enduring Blight. That adds a extra 3 seconds to our Blight's duration. Level 9, we're going to the right with Kreshek's Rage. Adds extra damage to our volley. And level 10, I talked about this earlier, we're going to the right with Earthrender. Now whenever we use our ultimate, it also drops a Blight. And all of the boosts that we've given to Blight also affect that Blight that's dropped from the ultimate. And you could also drop another Blight on top of it. So you could Blight ultimate, and now you've just smashed them with a ton of damage, and they're standing in 2 Blights. That's never good. Alright, so those are the Helix choices that I make. Let me show you my gear. And look at this, it's not the normal set. I've finally had to switch it up. The master set no longer works. So this is the gear that I use for Incursion and Meltdown. It's obviously more expensive. The first item is this Antiquated Golemic Sigil. It's 9.1% skill damage at the cost of shield strength, which does not affect us, so we get this one for free. 9.1% extra skill damage as soon as you start the match. Second item is this Survivor's Regrowth Serum. Adds 7 health regen per second, and then an extra 4.2 if we live for 3 minutes. And I take that on almost every build I make. And then the third item is this Aelfrin Memory Band. This is Thorn's legendary item, so you'll need to complete all her lore challenges to get this one. It's got a 10.2% critical hit damage, an extra 3.6 health regen, and it causes Nature's Curse to instantly charge when you get the full draw. So when you pull back Thorn's bow, the longer you hold it, the more damage it does, and there's something called a full draw, which is slightly after she pulls it back. So normally you would full draw, and then you're at full damage, and then there's a few, I don't know the exact time, but there's like a second or two more before Curse activates, and this causes Curse to start right at full draw. So it's really going to increase your damage because you should be cursing every single shot if you're playing correctly. So that legendary is fantastic, even if it may not seem like it at first glance. Alright, so this is my Incursion and Meltdown gear. If I'm going into capture, I use this gear down here. The first one is health regen, this artificial Vitae, 7 health regen per second. This one I change a lot, but right now I'm kind of liking the Duelist Glove for 9.1% attack damage, but well, you could, whatever you like on this one, you could go with like cooldown reduction or movement speed or any number of things, but that's currently what I'm going with. I'm not like super sold on it, but it's decent. And then the third item, is same as the first set, is this Antiquated Golemic Sigil. 9.1% skill damage at the cost of shield strength, which once again, she doesn't have a shield, so that does not affect me. Alright, so there is my Helix choices and my gear setup. Let's jump to some clips, and I'll explain to you how the level progression works with this build. The first 2 levels get you 2 upgrades to Blight. First, a slow to enemies at level 1, and then a speed boost to yourself when you're in your Blight at level 2. At these levels, it's usually best to just hang back and make sure you get a Blight onto every minion wave to start gaining levels. You can get Thorn leveled really fast and quickly take over a match, so I usually play it patiently to begin, and then later I'm very aggressive. If you do decide to be more aggressive early though, just remember to hit a target with Curse before you close the gap on them, and then unleash your skills, which will now do a lot more damage and allow you to finish the kill. Level 3 gets you Draw Strength. This is an ability you want to always be aware that you have, and if you can hit 2 things in a single shot, then do it. Opportunities will present themselves in pretty much every match, so take advantage of it. Also, it shoots right through allies and right through Toby's shield. Nothing more satisfying than taking out a Toby who's hiding behind his shield. Level 4 gets you Knockout, which increases your arrow count on volley up to 7. If you can get up real close to a target like Montana and hit him with all 7 arrows, it does a ton of damage. You should always be trying to get as close to your target as possible when you shoot out your volleys, and even on smaller targets, it can be a gigantic burst. Especially like the smaller, like fatter ones like Ernest. You can hit Ernest with that whole burst and it just blows him away. It's fantastic amounts of burst damage on him. Level 5 gets you Hextension, which increases the bonus damage from Curse and increases the duration, which works ridiculously well with the ultimate you just picked up. The ultimate does insane damage just on its own, but now it'll do an extra 35% damage if you cursed your target first. Plus, you likely blighted and volleyed them before the ultimate, so they gonna die. They're gonna die, and they're gonna die real bad. Level 6 increases the damage of your Blight by 15%, which helps both your wave clear and killing players. It's also usually around level 6 that I get all of my gear activated as well, so now I'm really strong with Curse on virtually every shot and 21.8 health regeneration a second if I've been alive for 3 minutes. 21.8 health regeneration a second is a ton, and I can't tell you how many players I've killed who got aggressive with me because I was low HP and they just wanted to finish me off real quick, only to be unable to overpower that regeneration and end up dead themselves. With that kind of regen, you never really have to retreat. You can more or less stay in lane indefinitely, as ducking behind a wall for even just 5 seconds gets you back nearly 110 HP. Level 7 is the big game changer with the increased jump height. If your regen alone wasn't enough, now you've got that crazy regen on top of being incredibly hard to hit for both melee and ranged characters. This also works wonders for being aggressive as well, as nothing can stand in your way when you close the gap or go for your escape after the kill, unless you get slowed or stunned. You can just jump over everything. Level 8 is an increase to the duration of your Blight. Now your Blight is a fire and forget skill on the minion waves. It should be taking them out all by itself if they're all in it and remain in it for the full duration. So that lets you just take out the minions and go do something else without worrying about it. Level 9 increases Volley's damage, which gives you even more killing power. Not that you really needed it, to be honest. At this point, you can pretty much guarantee kills on targets you curse, unless they're incredibly tanky, you miss a skill, or they get some kind of healing or shielding while you're working on them. Either way, your damage potential is through the roof, and you can do it in relative safety, flying through the air, even though you're technically in melee range. She can just pretty much go wherever she wants, and it's hard to kind of do anything about it. Level 10 is the icing on the cake with a Blight appearing at the location of your ultimate, allowing you to double Blight if you like, or simply giving you a speed boost for your escape if you throw the ultimate at your feet, which I like to do. Well, there you have it, the Aerial Predator build for Thorn. The killing potential with this build is through the roof, and the crazy thing about it is that almost every game, I feel like I made so many errors where I could have gotten way more kills. The match I included with this build had 27 kills, and you can see multiple opportunities I missed to get even more. I hope you guys enjoyed the build, and be sure to let me know how it worked out for you in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.